Welcome to the Tunabudget Podcast, your source for insights into financial wellness. Today we're diving into the benefits and process, the big why. At Tunabudget.com, home of the Tunabudget Worksheet Plan and Candid Conversation memos, we offer resources that simplify budget life planning. We encourage discussions about real-life challenges affecting our finances. Don't forget to submit your own Candid Conversation memo at Tunabudget.com. Let's get started. What is a Tunabudget Worksheet Plan? Tunabudget is your own customized budget worksheet plan. Take a simple spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, or the Tunabudget Worksheet Plan template that's on Tunabudget.com. It's free, that you can easily adjust to fit your own life. This is much more than a budget. It is a life plan with a paycheck-by-paycheck projection for the next year or so. It does not prescribe how every dollar will be spent. More importantly, it is an overall plan of action. You can see for yourself what you'll be doing a year out, if that's how far you want to go, because that's where you'll be spending your resources. If you don't like it, then change it. That's the whole purpose. If you're financially in trouble, your plan will get you out of trouble the best possible way, your spouse's way, your family's way. Obviously, then, when you'll need to make the template your own. You should change it however you need to make it your own. So change, add, delete all the rows you'd like. Install your own numbers right on top of those numbers in the template. But the Tunabudget Worksheet Plan template is set up with all the right fields to automatically add up the data, etc. You can focus on the first few months and then copy and paste out the same for as long as you want, a year or so, but just change the amounts out there as desired as the worksheet time goes out to meet your goals and your objectives. So play with it. Change it around to meet your exact situation. All the estimated expenses, debts, costs you list are effectively literally viewed as prepaid on paper, right? From the projected income on the spreadsheet, by the estimated dates that you're going to receive income. The worksheet is viewed regularly and enables you to enter or identify for you and your companion where you've been financially, where you're at today, how you got there basically, and where you're going for the next year or so. Once you get used to it, it's like building a set of railroad tracks from which your train can't be derailed, because you're going to know where you've been, where you're at, and you're going to know where you're going. It's incredible. The Tunabudget Worksheet Plan is always an ongoing process template. Okay, it's never permanent. It can change and should change all the time, each month, for example. It will hardly take no time to get it 99% finished, but since it's always subject to change and updating, it's always in draft form. The first part is to get the income and expenses to reconcile. It takes some work, and changes may have to be made. Big changes in your life. So things will change. It's supposed to be life-changing. As you consider these changes over the ensuing weeks and months, you adjust the numbers on the worksheet accordingly. The Tunabudget Worksheet Plan is a companion, and it's always in draft form, and it's never set in stone. It should and will change as you regularly review and update the plan to keep it current. As you use the tool, you'll find that an internal recognition starts to take place. You will quickly understand and know from within what changes in life must take place, be it for yourself, as a parent, as a spouse, or even with revised repayment proposals to your creditors. Everything as needed. Your Tunabudget Worksheet Plan will clearly bring peace of mind and a strong sense of purpose because you will have taken ownership of your current and future financial well-being and all the changes that need to take place, if any, or opportunities. For you, it may become the most effective budget worksheet plan ever. It is completely private, simple to use, always in draft form, free of any material costs, and very, very powerful. The Tunabudget Plan will also strengthen your marriage and family relationships. Getting a couple on the same page is certainly possible too. Usually one spouse is inclined to prepare the Tunabudget Worksheet Plan, that is if you're married, and the other will not be so inclined. If there are concerns as to the drafted results by either spouse, You simply adjust the outlook and corresponding numbers as per their ideas. You take a close look and see if that makes more sense. But you talk about it. You let it cool off for a while if need be. You come back with fresh eyes and a more clear head. You work the numbers up again and sit down and communicate with each other with facts and adjust as needed until the right plan is in place. Take all the time you need to come together. Work it until there's excitement in the air. When there are differences, if you think you're right, think again. The best 3 words you can offer your spouse, particularly saying to the woman, is, "You're probably right." Most of the time, women are intuitively right, so listen carefully and save yourselves a lot of time and money. Of course, depending on your situation, the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan is also to be used to help satisfy creditors by finding the best debt repayment solutions. Get and stay out of debt and save money and become more financially secure and self-reliant. Bottom line, it allows you to see and understand more clearly your mental, emotional, and financial well-being so that appropriate changes can be more readily made by each of the stakeholders. Call it simple, but it will enable you to do hard things. Call it what you want, but it works, and it starts to work almost immediately. Once you complete your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, you'll appreciate what changes you need to make. Which can take generally, say, up to 6 months to complete, like the time to sell a vehicle or a residence or a new job or whatever it takes. Seeing it all on paper is how and why change takes place. It's the miracle of the change. It starts as you fill out the worksheet. So take your time filling out your worksheet plan. There is no hurry here. Give yourself plenty of time. Start by listing everything you can think of on the income side, all the expenses, and look at the balances, even the debts owed, the whole balance and so forth, as this will allow you to unload a ton of baggage on your mind. You can take your first real breath as you build out the worksheet. Just relax as the worksheet is being filled out. In short, the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, again, is it's your how-to plan to get where you need to be financially. Even if you feel overwhelmed at first by just thinking about having to do this, trust me and just do your best. Even if it's not 100% accurate, it doesn't matter. It'll get there. Again, this is a process starting with recognition, getting the turmoil out of your head and onto a spreadsheet. No more getting caught up in the spinning cycle in your mind on trying to find solutions in your head with no sleep and all the other contentious moments in life. No more. Your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan will become one of your best friends, a prized tool that gives you full control of your life. As you fill out the worksheet, perhaps you are feeling very thankful for what you have. Or maybe you're experiencing anxiety, frustration, and even anger. So even though there's a specific, more in-depth podcast on the mechanics of how to fill out the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, I want to give you a little sneak peek into how it actually works right here, right now, shall we? Be sure to listen to the Mechanics, the How podcast to pick up some other useful tips. For now, check out these simple 7 tips or 7 steps and experience how and why changes will take place. And when you fill out the worksheet plan, it's easier to do so in the order of the steps. So take the first step and keep going all the way through the 7th. Follow these 7 steps step by step to complete your first draft. Hopefully many drafts, and it's because it's always in draft form. Okay, the first step is you fill out the assets. Start by filling out the balance sheet assets. Keep it very high level, very simple, generalized as if there's only if it's only there for reference purposes. Just put in amounts that you think that are close. There's just a quick reference to assets. Next, your income. List the net income sources for the first month or so. Like I said, you're probably going to be thinking of yourself that you're being underpaid and there's just not enough money. That's okay. Trust me. All these feelings are normal. Everybody's going to go through it. Regardless of what you're thinking, just keep going. So just list the net income sources out for each paycheck, if you would. Say there's 2 in a given month. list it out for 2 or 3 months, paycheck by paycheck on each corresponding date. Okay? Very simple. Next, take a look at the expense categories. That's the third step. Complete the expense category section. In the template, you'll see, use it as a guide as you get started. Pretty much everything is listed there for most people's budgets. If it's not applicable to you, then delete the row. Okay? Or just type over it for those things that are applicable to you. Again, adjust the titles as needed or delete or add any rows that you want to. But put the expense categories in as best you can. And over time, of course, you'll see that it adjusts very quickly to the expenses that you see fit. The next section is to actually list the liabilities. List all your liabilities, how much each creditor is owed. Put the total down next to each one of those debts. Like if dentist may be one of your expenses. Well, put the total amount that's owed. If you owe them $400, put $400 on there. Okay, and look everything up if you need to get good numbers. The big number, the total at the bottom, may cause you to think, "Oh, I'm never going to get this repaid," or "This will never work. There's no use. There's not enough money." These initial thoughts you're experiencing are a good start to a very special process. A very good thing is starting to happen inside your mind if you're seeing this. First of all, it's coming out of your head and onto a piece of paper so you can take a deep breath. You'll see the debt load and may start saying things like, "Oh my gosh, like I said, it's too much compared to so and so," or this is what it takes to live these days. You start justifying it and stuff like that. Of course, many people will justify in their minds what's there. But this is all fine too, okay? Just put it all down there, every bit of it. And the fifth step is the monthly payments. List the estimated monthly payment amount for everything. Again, you're not spreading this. This is not to be spread out and spent yet under the paycheck amounts. This is just the monthly payment. There's a column called monthly payments. It's the total that's due. If you have a $300,000 mortgage, it's $2,500 a month. Put $2,500. Okay. Don't worry at all about what the total is. Just put all the numbers in for each area. The worksheet will add up the totals for you anyway. But do note the grand total. You'll start to think again and you'll express shock of how much everything costs. Wow, that's a ton of money. I'll never be able to quit my job or get fired. You'll have a ton of feelings. And number 6, this is where you're going to pre-spend or pretend spend. How are you going to spend your individual paychecks, if you would, or the dollar amounts listed up above, and the income, the net amount, the take home that you actually get deposited into an account, or a check you can cash. That amount you're gonna start to pre-spend that, basically paycheck by paycheck for the first few months. So start to pre-spend the monthly payment amounts that you just put in there from each of the amounts up in the income section by date, literally. For example, if you have a monthly payment divided over, and if you've got a couple of pay periods in a given month, divide that payment up over a couple of pay periods. You'll literally start to pretend spend or pre-spend your immediate and future income. Amazing, right? You can pre-spend your life. Since you know the date for when payments are due, go ahead and pre-spend the income to cover each expense. You're literally pre-spending or pretending to spend your future checks. Remember, this is all about developing a plan to see what works and what does not work. And in many cases, it will not work. That's the purpose of doing the exercise, of making the plan, to see what works and what doesn't work, because you're going to make some adjustments and start fixing things till it does work. That's the whole reason for the plan. That's why it's so powerful. So don't get too excited if you see that there isn't enough money to cover the expenses. In many cases, probably most cases, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's why this is a solution to the problem that everybody has. And to get it out of your head and get rid of all the mental stress and all the contention in relationships and everything. So hang in there, okay? Now, as you go through the last step is to reconcile. Adjust the numbers to get your income and expenses to balance the income and expenses as best you can. In some cases, there will be excess income to dump into savings or whatever. In many, many cases, there will be insufficient income or too many expenses to reconcile and come out even. This is what the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan does for you. It allows you to literally, you and your spouse, your partner, to literally see that things don't add up and that changes will need to be made in either your income or expenses or both. So hang in there. Just start to take it all in, okay? Put it on the back burner for a day or two, okay, to cool things off for a few days. Good things will soon be happening. Now let's talk about when there are changes that start to come from within as you internalize what you have, what your worksheet plan is showing you. And this is really the best part of all, in my opinion. The Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan is, like I said, the most powerful budget worksheet plan in the world because of its ability to change your heart and mind, literally, from within. As you lay everything out on the worksheet, over time there will come to you thoughts as to what you really need to change or do to right-size your life. The worksheet numbers can then be adjusted accordingly. Changes may include things like determining to get out of debt over the next year or so, credit cards, auto loans, student debt, or downsizing the expensive truck and getting rid of the payments, resulting in lower insurance, gas, maintenance costs. Maybe you'll even decide to downsize the expensive house and using some of the equity to dramatically lowering your housing costs into something smaller and paying off debts. Regardless, the right answers to your budget needs will surface for you and your spouse and partner. This is a together experience. It's a process for your financial well-being. And there's nothing more powerful than that. It's private and it's personal too, and it's free. Thoughts will come into your mind as you ponder your always in draft mode Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. You will probably literally be taking a walk or a shower, just waking up one morning, or talking to someone, eating dinner, or driving to work, when suddenly a certain realization will pop into your head and you'll say, oh my gosh, we need to, that's the special, powerful miracle that takes place as you complete your drafted Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. So it's a process. It's not a one-and-done budget. It's not a budget, in fact. It is a life planning or change process. You will look back at the first phase where you suffered through the anguish of realizing the mess your finances were in as you filled out your first worksheet plan, and you won't believe what can happen afterwards. Remember that the original plan is not your final plan. It's just a starting point. There never will be, nor should there be, a final plan. Life changes and you update the plan all the time as needed. Being patient with yourself and with your spouse or partner. You finally come to realize that with certain adjustments, change must happen. The changes you thought you'd never make may suddenly become totally exciting to make if the changes will enable you to get the peace of mind that you need and will soon experience. And in due time, your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan will become stabilized, where you more or less have the financial well-being you seek. Looking back, you may see that you decided to sell that big truck that you never thought you could part with, or give up your golf game or whatever. Maybe it will have meant that you would sell the house and live in and downsize to a smaller unit. The miracle part is to remember, you know that these changes came within your heart and mind, and you will never, ever look back. You forge forward and never look back. You will make the changes you wanted to make from the heart. This is where peace of mind is restored and financial well-being is achieved. Nobody told you what needed to be done. Nobody made those decisions for you. No, it came from within. What's more powerful? Now, a little heads up, okay? This process may have a discouraging, hard part at first before the excitement comes. Again, as you create your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, patiently study it out, especially if yours is a household plan. Deal with some of the ugly agony of the realization of where you're at. It's okay if it's messy. Don't take it too personally or get overexcited with it. It's 100% normal to even feel overwhelmed. You're not the only one in this mess. Probably most people are in your shoes or something close to it, but they don't realize it yet. They will be if they have a heavy debt burden. As you complete your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, again, always in draft form, so remember that, you'll soon begin to see how you got yourself there in the first place, regardless of whether it's your fault. At this point, it can really become discouraging and hard. The answers just don't always seem to be there, right? This process, however, is supposed to be a natural process. It may take a day or two, or a week or two, or even a month or two for things to start to happen. It makes sense. The timing might also coincide with the natural man pride, the way I like to call it, that we all have inside of us. And that goes for yourself and your spouse if you're married. When it comes to your spouse, relax. Give your spouse some slack. This could be a big deal, some pending changes to this person. And one can expect that your spouse is doing his or her best, all things considered. Treat each other with the utmost respect and tender care, and always put their interest ahead of yours. Really? Yeah. Always put their interest ahead of yours. Watch what happens if you do. It's only a draft plan anyway. It can be changed at any time. You don't have to be right. Listen by asking questions of your spouse and what he or she wants to see happen, and put those expenses in the plan for a serious look for a few days, right? Try it on for size. Ask each other, is this what we really want for us and our family? Ask yourselves if this could be what we should do. And whatever you do, never try to force any should-do changes onto your spouse, ever. Instead, patiently wait it out. Generally, people want to have peace of mind, be happy, and the should-do changes may be what is needed, in fact. But your spouse is more important than any Tuna Budget Worksheet plan, so remember that. If you and your spouse have differing visions, go with your spouse's idea first. Let that be your argument. No, you're first. No, you're first. Bottom line, as a little time goes by, hearts will start to soften. Pride starts to leave as people get tired of being miserable and being stuck in their old ways. The right answers will come patiently. It'll come to you perhaps when you're least thinking about it, like I said. But answers will come from within your heart. You and your spouse will come to understand what changes really need to take place. And excitement will begin to blossom in your collective minds and hearts. And you will clearly begin to see what changes need to be made and what paths will take you to get to resolution, even if those actions seem to be too difficult at first or impossible. You will know what changes to make without any question. And you will in no way look back. Talk about powerful. Please. To recap, this first part, like I said, can be messy and discouraging. This is totally normal for everybody that's in a mess. We have lots of pride, and we can become very stubborn. So don't listen to those voices. In a marriage situation, you must work carefully with your spouse because your spouse may not want anything to do with this process. It's patience. The Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan is always in draft form, okay? And it's a process that should be given the necessary time to develop out. It's a process and a plan. That's where the power comes in and the change. This is not to be rushed. Now, there are triage rush moments, and that's fine. Do it what you have to do. But it could take a week or even a month or so. But once you get the worksheet to this stage where you're staring at numbers that don't work, step back away from it and let it cool off on the back burner for a bit. And then come back to it with a fresh set of rested eyes. See if there are some new feelings and how your spouse feels about it. And again, as you open the door, You will both start to have thoughts that come as you recognize potential solutions you never even thought were possible. This is the powerful part of your Tuna Budget Worksheet experience. Potential changes are coming from within, not from out. You are in charge. You come to accept that you are responsible. You must provide. You promise to repay, and you are now going to do it on your own way, in your own terms, as best you can through your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. You'll together become excited, ecstatic, power to make changes you heretofore thought you'd never be willing to make. And then hope starts to replace despair and contention, right? This short ad is sponsored by the Debt Crisis Problem Podcast. Attention listeners, please join us at Tunabudget.com to tune into the Debt Crisis Problem Podcast, where in plain English we discuss the 20 risks that could soon fuel a serious economic downturn. We explore these critical risks and offer practical insights for navigating financial uncertainty. Join us for thought-provoking discussions that encourage transparency and awareness. Subscribe now to stay informed and be ready for whatever comes next. Next topic is adversity, too much debt versus doing your best. For those cases where there's heavy debts, maybe overbearing, overwhelming debt, what do you do? Do your best, right? When adversity combines to fill your ship with too much water and you're sinking fast, what do? Assuming you have way too much debt, again, and it's ruining your life, and you know it, but are not sure what to do about it, it's definitely ruining your life, your marriage. You fret and you lose sleep over it. Perhaps the level of debt has become truly overwhelming. Is it? Perhaps your debt load was acquired through some sort of adversity, being out of your control, or it just happened, like some sickness or accident, what have you. Perhaps it comes because of you being unwise, or should we say being foolish, or maybe just plain stupid. Let's say for you it's just too heavy, even overwhelming debt through some sort of adversity. This is important, so please pay close attention. Are you letting adversity sink you? Are you in pity party mode, or it's not fair mode, or nobody understands mode, or woe is me mode? Or are you taking it as an opportunity to have your feathers trimmed a little bit, or maybe your tree branches pruned? Are you tossing out an opportunity to learn something here and become someone new that's beyond wonderful and beautiful, and all this because of your adversity? Could this burden of debt adversity be a blessing in disguise? Are you fighting it to the point that you hate yourself, your spouse, your family, the whole world around you, and deity too? You do know that adversity pretty much strikes everyone sooner or later. You do know that adversity can be a blessing to refine one's life if you'll let it. If your debt is overwhelming through adversity and maybe a combination of stupidity too, right? Somewhere along the line, you must realize that you own this indebtedness regardless, or you need to take ownership of it. It has become your responsibility, so deal with it on your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan as best you can. That you or anyone else can certainly do. It's called best efforts. In most cases, you probably likely go you get a bill in the mail, or you borrowed money that has your signature on it, all over it in writing, promising to pay. Perhaps you have accepted the liability and debt load, but you don't know what to do about it or how to manage it. Well, now you know what to do about it. Okay, keep listening here. How do you pay your debt if it's overwhelming? Before we talk more about the solution, let's first talk about honesty and that giant debt load, okay? Honest people pay their debts, and if they absolutely cannot do that, they do everything in their power to do so for as long as it takes. I don't care if it's $1 a month for the rest of your life, right? You are responsible for your debts, even the ones that came through adversity. What you do What do you do if you can't repay the debts per the original agreed upon terms or any other terms? How do you account for every one of those debts when they add up to more than your ability or your capacity to repay several times over? How will you eventually get those balances to a zero balance? First, use your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. Go ahead and list every single one of those debts. Yes, that budget worksheet can handle it, and show the full balance and the supposed full monthly payment or expected payment amount on the worksheet. Of course, it will add up to more than the income and perhaps many times over. That's okay. List everything regardless of how hopeless it is. You need to see and feel outside of your head the true weight of your current situation so you can start to heal as you seek a resolution plan. This is the first step in gaining some sanity and peace of mind, even though at first it is totally discouraging, overwhelming, whatever you want to call it. Just fill it out and see how heavy the debt load is outside of your head and your heart and that of your spouse or partner, right? Ponder it for a while. Let it rest and cool off for a few days. But take the first step. Take that long-needed deep breath and relax for a minute. The creditors are not going to come and eat you. It's all finally out of your head and down on paper, if you would, outside your body. Then go back and start to pre-spend your future paychecks one by one and adjust the spending amounts. Just leave the unexpected monthly payment alone for now. But start playing around with the numbers to try to get things to balance out as you pre-spend future paychecks as best you can. Okay? The intention, though, is to have the spending amounts be the amounts that you actually plan to spend from each source of income on a given date, eventually. Okay? Obviously, there are cases where it's overwhelming or it's many times impossible. Then that's a whole other story. But perhaps you can pay something. Can you pay $10 toward a $100,000 medical bill? Yeah, you can. But you say, it's not going to balance, right? Just adjust down the spending amounts all throughout the budget until the income and the paychecks and the outgo, the spending amounts, are reconciled or balanced. Okay? Do this even if you must adjust your adversity debt to just $1, like I said. If you have 10 adversity debts, if you must, put $1 for each one and go back up there until it makes sense to you, and go back up from there until it makes sense. In the next podcast, again, we'll show you how to use your worksheet plan when negotiating with creditors. That's called Dealing with Creditors, a great podcast. So relax, you can look at that one later. It's not the end of the world here, though. Just allocate or pre-spend your income to pay something toward each of the debts and get your worksheet to balance out. Of course, there may be need to make other changes, maybe some big changes. But as you work through your worksheet, you'll begin to see for yourself what other changes need to be made. And you'll take a breath. And the worry and the stress and anxiety and the contention, the fighting, the anger, the bad words being said and everything else and worse, okay, it starts to take a back seat. This is your life. I'm sorry that there was adversity. This is it. And you step forward and you say, this is how we're going to take care of it. Again, this is a process. It's not a budget. And give this process time and work it over and over again over the ensuing days or even weeks. The worksheet is always to be in draft form. Sooner or later, as you launch your plan, do it with the personal expectation and good faith, of course, that every debt you promise to pay will be repaid. In fact, over time, though. Think about the possibility to renegotiate your debts with creditors to an equitable repayment plan that fits within your plan. In the end, your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan will allow you to pre-spend your future income in a responsible and honest way to meet your needs and still repay the debts as best you can. Can you see why giving this your best efforts is all about being honest? You own it. So accept it and just do the best you can, okay? Again, this principle of being honest and transparent needs to be underscored here. Even the repayment of written-off loans, they can be repaid at $1 a month if you have to. Since you promised to repay your debts, even if your debts fell upon you through some sort of adversity, it doesn't matter. You own it, so accept it. And know that you'll be paying for it on a best efforts basis. And because you have recognized and accepted full responsibility for it, sometimes you're just not able to repay it according to those creditors' terms. Again, that's okay. Life happens. It sucks sometimes, right? The same could fall upon the creditor too. But you still must make good on your end as best you can per your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. This approach lets you sleep very well at night, knowing that you've done your best. Keep in mind that you may not want to see all of this at first, okay? You may even refuse to even deal with it, as it can be overwhelming, and you need peace of mind, so it just goes away. Because you are honest, right? Everything will go on the worksheet. If you have too much debt, you have too much debt. Just show it all on there and start to heal, okay? This is a healing process. You're not alone. Most people's plans are probably upside down too and show a deficit. That's why people are living off credit cards. Don't lose hope. Just do your best, but do it. Now, again, I want to emphasize that you need to trust the process where big changes can be made, okay? No thinking in a bubble anymore. You can change and fix this. Perhaps the greatest change, and this is why the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, again, it's a process and it's so incredibly powerful, are the changes that take place within your own heart. Recognizing where you've been in the past and how utterly gross or heavy your current situation might be at the present, you begin to see that something must change or your ship will sink. Your spouse or partner realizes it too, and your children may realize it. They'll certainly feel something must happen, right? But you are wiser. You will trust the process. You start to realize that you can make some simple changes at first. Maybe you could spend less on dining out, or you could put in your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan a program to pay off a credit card or even more debt. Or you could realize that you have enough equity in your car to sell it and get rid of a high car payment by paying cash for a used car with the equity. Or you could sell your home, pay off all your debts, and start over with the smallest house that you can find. From spending less on dining out to selling your home and getting completely out of debt. Yes, little to big changes can all be played out on your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. It's just a plan. It's not a budget. You can create your future in your head and transpose it to the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan to try it on for size and see how things look. No harm, no foul, right? No more heated arguments with your spouse. It's time to fix this mess and really be happy together. If you're married, for example. Before you know it, you'll be out of debt and saving money. It happens quickly. You'll also become very close with your spouse and your children by having gone through this process. So getting rid of that stress and anger, right? No more madness, right? Which leads to the next benefit of trusting this process. Are you tired yet of all the angst, the desperation, the anxiety, which always seems to lead to fighting and contention and anger? Wouldn't it be nice to just feel more normal again, at peace and secure and happy, and a few more laughs maybe? The Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan process, as you work through it over time, will stop this madness from being recycled in your head over and over, causing you relentless stress. You'll finally start to realize, be more humble, that changes need to be made, that making changes are okay, regardless of what extended family and friends may be thinking. When you look at the various potential changes on your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan, the recycled stress in your head, it starts to subside as you gain some hope and start looking forward to new possibilities. Best of all, there's less and less madness to be worried about, which will automatically get rid of the stress and anger. Suddenly, before you know it, you will likely rekindle the love and respect you had with your spouse on your wedding day, and much more. Again, replacing all the madness, you will start to see more clearly what changes need to be made. Over time, usually my experience has been 3 to 6 months, the changes start to happen as you make well-intentioned changes and adjustments on your always-in-draft Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. Talk about powerful, and it really didn't cost you anything at all, right? What's better than free? For those marriages that keep separate books, all that can be said is that you're missing out, big time. Give it some thought about combining all the finances together. There's more happiness if you do it right. There's nothing better than being one with your spouse, and the children, if they're children, will love it too. So get it done. Now, truly, your spouse, and I'm not saying whether it's the husband or the wife or whatever partner, but your spouse or partner is more important than you are. So this is not about you. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Put the interests of your spouse first, ahead of yours. So like if you're married or you have a partner, remember this is not about you. In fact, again, your spouse or partner is more important than you. Do you get it? Do you realize that? Did you notice there's no distinction, again, as to whether the spouse is the husband or the wife or whomever? Both should treat the other spouse as if he or she is more important than the other. Just go into this process putting your spouse's interest ahead of your own. It's like getting on an airplane. It doesn't matter who gets to sit up front closest to the pilot, right? To be the first ones on board or the first ones to get off the plane upon arrival. Again, both parties are going to arrive at the destination at the same time. So just see to it that your spouse is seated up front, so to speak. Give your spouse if you're just one first class seat, give your spouse the first class seat, and give him or her that treatment when putting together your Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan. You can see what's being said here, right? If you're too prideful to put your spouse ahead of you, just keep it that way for the time being, and let's get going. Chances are everybody already knows which spouse is the prideful one, right? But we digress. This process is really a two-way street when it comes to your spouse or partner. The Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan is a life-changing experience, one that is meant to be closely shared. It affects everyone, including the lives of your children, if you have any. So this is just not about you, even though you might think or want, or worse yet, insist that it is. But it's not about you. It's about putting the other person first. Magic happens when either of you do it. Be the first one to start by asking, how would you like to see this or that handled? Ask, what changes do you think we should do in the best interest of our family? If you're ever going to have another argument, make it about who gets to put the interests and desires of the other spouse first, right? Anyway, it's so worth it to be incredibly patient, loving, and kind as you counsel with each other. If you ever find yourself getting prideful or angry at all, stop, please, because you're now in the wrong. Period. Regardless, sorry. If you're causing any contention in your relationships, raising your voice, arguing, you are playing in the wrong. But just say sorry quickly with a sincere smile and get back to work. As you go through this, the sooner you get yourself out of the way, tone it down, put in your spouse first, the sooner you're going to see great changes take place. Always put your spouse first. Goes for both of you. There is no hurry in the Tuna Budget Worksheet Plan process. There is nothing wrong with stretching this out over a month or even 2. It's your life. It's your spouse's life. It will affect your children's lives. You now have a tool, a plan of getting all this stuff fixed. It takes time. It may be a big deal that will require some big sacrifices to get to the necessary changes. These will be the changes that you two can now see because you've gone through the process. What was unthinkable a short while ago, it not only is possible, but there's so much excitement now to make the new changes. So as you go through the process, and if your spouse is unclear about something, go back to the Tunabudget Worksheet Plan and ask yourself what he or she thinks about it and what would they recommend. If a change is something that is recommended, then put that change into the worksheet by adjusting the spending numbers. Let it simmer a bit, and then ask yourselves later if that's what you both want. If it isn't what you both really want, then give it some more time to think about it. Make another change or two. It's okay. It's always in draft form. It's not finalized, ever. If you're still at a deadlock, though, then change yourself first. You likely know that if you really want to help your spouse change, then you just need to change yourself first. So give it up. Give it a try, but be respectful. Remember, if you raise your voice and become angry, you're not treating your spouse with due respect, and you are in the wrong, period. When you find yourself in the doghouse, quickly say, "I'm sorry, it won't happen again." When it does happen again, say, "I'm sorry, it won't happen again." When it happens, keep trying. In other words, don't ever give up. Your spouse is literally more important than you are. Be patient with yourself and with your spouse. There is no race here. Thank you for joining us. Today we explored the benefits and process, the big why behind or highlighting the importance of open conversations in financial wellness. We want to hear from you at Tunabudget.com. Submit your own candid conversation memo and share your insights. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe for future podcasts. Until next time, visit Tunabudget.com for your free Tunabudget Worksheet Plan, the most powerful budget worksheet plan in the world, yours. Thanks again.